Hey guys, so today I'm going to show you how to take your pumpkin and turn it into the pumpkin you get in a can. So you can make pumpkin pie, pumpkin cookies, pumpkin rolls, whatever you like. So this is very, very healthy, so you don't do it with any preservatives or fillers or things like that. So let's get started. So the first thing you want to do with your pumpkin is you need to wash it just to make sure it's clean. Sometimes you're going to have some of this, and that's just from growing on the ground. That's not dirt. That's not going to come off. If you really feel passionate about it, then you can just not use this section, but it should be fine. So I'm just using a dish soap water rag and just making sure that the whole thing is clean before we begin. I prefer just an electric carving knife because this is going to take a lot of effort. And then the fastest method is to put it in a crock pot when you're done. So we're going to cut it up into little pieces and then cook it in the crock pot for about 3-4 hours and making sure that it stays moist. Pumpkin does have a lot of moisture in it naturally. That's how you can grow a good pumpkin, is with lots and lots of water. And so it will come out as it's cooking, but if it ever gets too dry, you can add in just a hint of oil or water, and then we'll get to that later. Okay, so we cut out some big pieces, and now we'll just make it into small pieces. Here it's actually easier to use your smaller knife. I like the electric just to pull it off the pumpkin, and once it's here, it's really easy just to chop it. If you have a cleaver, that would be the ideal knife to use, or even just a butcher knife. About 1-inch size or 1/2-inch size is ideal. And then just throw them into your crock pot. They can be irregularly shaped. They don't have to be perfect because we're just going to blend it up after we cook it. So the idea is to just get it down to small, even pieces. You want it like fairly even just so it'll cook, right? So you're not going to have some that are going to be overcooked and some that are going to be undercooked. And then, so we're just going to cook it, and then we will blend it up, and that's pretty much it. So it's fairly simple. It is a little time consuming because you have to chop up the whole thing and then cook it. Some people like to bake it in the oven, but that gets really complicated because the pumpkin gets dehydrated. So really the crock pot, I feel, is the most efficient way, and then you don't really have to worry about it. Just check on it every couple hours to make sure that there is water in it, but I haven't had any problems so far. And it definitely helps to use your jack-o'-lantern pumpkin because the center is already cleaned out. If you're using a fresh pumpkin, this could be a little messy because you have all the seeds and gunk inside. So that's why it's just completely beneficial to use the jack-o'-lantern because it's already cleaned out and you've already had fun with it, and that way there's no waste. Okay, this is 3 hours later. Our pumpkin is all done. It's nice and squishy. You can just kind of squish it in your fingers. That's what we want. So that means we are ready to blend it. You can either use a food processor or a blender. We will be using a blender, but either method will work. Okay, so we scooped everything. Well, not everything. It didn't fit all of it. We probably will have to do this in 2 blenders full. We put all the pumpkin inside, and as you can see, it's kind of liquidy, which is good. I put in all of the juices from the crock pot into here, so you still get all the flavor, and it will help it blend and mix well. If you don't add in your juices, you're not going to have enough liquid for it to blend, so that's very important. And it's best to do it while it's still warm. It just blends a lot better that way. So we just turn it on. There we go. That is step 3. Okay, so here is our pumpkin so far. As you can see, it's a little bit watery. So, and this is normal. So what we're going to do is we're going to strain it, just strain out the water so we have just mostly the pumpkin pulp left. So I have a big strainer right here, and I laid over a towel. This is non-terry cloth. I think it works better. Terry cloth can get kind of messy, so this is just a cotton hand towel. And I'm just going to slowly dump it in. And what's going to happen is the water is just going to seep out in between the cotton fibers. And what we're going to have left is just the pulp. I'm going to slowly put it in just to try and make sure it doesn't go over the towel too much. And it looks like we can just about get it all in. There we go. I'm just going to let it sit here for a few minutes. And so you don't really have to tend to it. You can already see the water soaking up into the towel. So this is perfect. So just let it sit here for 10 minutes, or you can play with it or squeeze it. I find it's just more efficient just to leave it, and I can go and do dishes or play with my kids or exercise or whatever I want. So there you go. That is the next step. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes. We're just gonna lift it up and see how it's doing. You can see it's still a little bit drippy. So all we're going to do is we're going to twist the two ends kind of into a Tootsie Roll and just start squeezing out any excess water left. So it's really drippy, and that is not what we want. We want to filter all of that liquid out so we get a nice condensed pumpkin. So ideally you do this with a bigger towel. I only had a little one that was non-terry, so you just make do with whatever you have. And it can get a little messy, but that's fine. You can always wash up. And if any pokes out, just re-poke it in, because you will have washed your hands before you get to this point. And then just squish it on down and just kind of maneuver it however. Have fun with it. Squish it, twist it, whatever it takes to get that water out. Okay, so now you can open it up and you can see we have a fairly good consistency. So I'll just re-wash my hands real quick. And there we go, we have our pumpkin. So what I'm going to do here is, because this is making a lot, and I still have a lot more to cook up and puree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a container. You can either use plastic containers or you can just use plastic bags. And I'm going to measure out my pumpkin for my pumpkin pie. My pumpkin pie recipe calls for 2 cups of pumpkin. Not pumpkin pie mix, but canned pumpkin. So watch your recipes, because there is a difference. Pumpkin pie mix already has the seasonings in it, and some recipes will call for that. And there we go. And if it's a little bit over, then that's fine, because there'll be some left in the bowl. There we go. Here is my pumpkin for my pumpkin pie. And then on the top of the lid, I'm just going to Sharpie on pumpkin pie 2 cups. And then I can freeze it, and then whenever I'm ready to make my pumpkin pie, then I have it.